We are in Antioch, California, northeast of San Francisco, a town of about 130,000 people.
Grab all your stuff.
Kathleen Rognaby has been out all day with her two children. They've been shopping. All of a sudden, she hears her daughter, Amia, screaming.
Mom, what is going on?
And her son looks at her with a strangled look on his face and says, Mom, there's blood everywhere.
You stay right there. Oh my God.
Kathleen runs out of the house and calls 911 hysterically.
What's the emergency?
My cousin, he's laying on the floor in blood.
Is he alive?
I don't know.
Okay, do you feel like you can go in there and help him?
No, I don't want to go in there. I don't want to go in there.
The officers are driving there as fast as they can, okay?
I'm scared. What do I do?
Kathleen is too upset to realize what's happened to her husband, and when she finds out, she's going to be even more upset.
I was across town when my call sign came up over the air and they were sending me to a medical call, and there wasn't a whole lot of details in there.
Ma'am, what's going on?
The family was outside. No one wanted any part with going into the house. Thinking to myself, like, what am I walking into? I walk in through the front door.
Mr. Eastman?
I go to turn into the kitchen and I see the victim.
Jesus.
And there's this just huge pool of coagulated blood all around his head. And I can hear him breathe just slightly.
We got you. Hang in there, buddy.
The standard response from 911 when you report an accident and a bleeding victim, they send EMTs to the home, assuming it is an accidental fall.
He must have hit his head on the counter or something.
I'm kind of looking around and I'm wondering, how did he get this? Did he have some type of medical emergency and he hit the tip of the counter? Trying to make sense of what's going on. And at some point, I remember medical personnel said, we're going to transport him. So I went to grab him by his feet, and as we picked him up on the inside part of his shirt, where his back was,
Hold up.
I saw something. I'm like, there's no way. And I take a closer look at it, and I go, that's a bullet fragment.
Everyone stops. This is no accident.
And as he's being transported to the hospital, I got on the radio and asked for whoever else is available to come down here because this is now an active crime scene.
Colley, take one.
My name is Corporal James Colley. In 2016, I was working for the Antioch Police Department, assigned to the Investigations Bureau as a homicide detective. Being a detective, you're always on call. And anytime my phone went off in the middle of the night, I knew exactly what it was for. There's never confusion about what it means.
Gonzalez?
I partnered with Detective Gonzalez on this.
My name is Adrian Gonzalez. I'm a corporal with the Antioch Police Department, and this was the first time I would be on the lead team.
Adrian at the time was a newer detective working property crime. I saw some potential in some of the work that he'd been doing, and I wanted to start getting his feet wet in the violent crime homicide world.
Okay, everybody, listen up. Here's what we got.
We were told that the victim was a white male. His name was Rellis Eastman.
We found out Rellis had suffered a gunshot wound to the back of his head. He was alive, but historically speaking, if you're shot in the back of the head, it's probably going to turn into a homicide at some point.
Detectives?
Officer Ramirez, what are we looking at?
We've got a Caucasian male found.
So Detective Colley arrives at this crime scene and meets Officer Ramirez of the Uniform Division, who is the person that called for their assistance.
I did the walkthrough with them. We made our way back into the kitchen, and I explained to them exactly how the victim was when I got there.
The entire kitchen was covered in blood, to the extent of there was even some brain matter on the floor from where he'd been shot. Relis Eastman got shot right in the threshold of the door that leads from the garage into the kitchen.
Blood pattern suggests he was walking this way.
So Colley assumes that Relis Eastman was moving from the garage to the kitchen. He opens the door, he takes a gunshot wound to the head, it splatters some brain tissue and some blood on the door.
I was imagining where the shooter would have been standing. And that kind of gives you an indication of how a bullet was fired and where it was fired from.
If more than one shot was fired, it more than likely went towards the living room.
I remember Detective Colley kind of starts walking around, was kind of taking the scene, and there was a TV that was hanging on the wall, and the TV screen was cracked. And he goes,
"There's a bullet hole in this TV."
The bullet in the TV was interesting because you could tell it was a straight-on bullet hole. It didn't look like it had hit something and maybe skipped.
I remember saying, that looks like a .22, just because it's such a small bullet.
We honestly didn't know what to make of that. 22s are usually target practice guns. You can shoot small rodents with it, I guess, but to see that the murder happened with a .22, it was unique.
So Colley begins as all homicide investigations begin. He doesn't know what happened, but he's thinking what could have happened here.
We started throwing around some ideas that it may have been some type of home invasion or a botched burglary. Those are not uncommon in Antioch. Antioch, it's a nice bedroom community, but Antioch has a lot of crime out here. A few years ago, we were voted the third or fourth most dangerous city in California.
The street where Relis lived at, it's a pretty quiet neighborhood, but it's surrounded by some streets that are a little bit more notorious in the Bay Area for, drugs and shootings and homicides.
Let's look around a little more.
Could this be a home invasion that goes suddenly wrong when there is a homeowner present and shots are fired? Is that possible? Of course it is.
But there was nothing that stood out that would have been an easy guess for us.
The house doesn't indicate anybody rifling through things, turning over furniture, or emptying drawers.
None of the doors had been kicked in. None of the windows appeared tampered with. And so either this was somebody that Relis knew, maybe somebody that Relis trusted, somebody that was able to get close enough to him and shoot him execution style in the back of the head. We didn't know who to suspect, but we knew it was close enough to make it that personal. My partner and I really turned our attention to Relis himself and what Relis may have been up to or something that he was involved in, because obviously something had led back to his house where he had been murdered.
Who are you, Relis Eastman, and why would somebody want to remove you from this earth? Detective Colley thinks the shooting of Relis Eastman is personal, but nothing at the scene really points to any particular individual as being responsible. So they go back outside to see what else they can find that might be of some assistance.
And so they started walking the perimeter of the house.
Hey guys, check this out.
They find a backpack. Well, what's that doing there?
Let's see what we got in here.
The backpack had some clothing items.
An ID
There was a wallet, and inside that wallet was the driver's license of Relis's oldest son, Scott Eastman.
We got more.
There was some marijuana and a pipe for it.
So now Colley's left with some thoughts. What if Scott's taste for narcotics has brought an element of danger to that family?
All right, put it all in there. Let's bag it up for evidence.
So Colley decides at the scene that he's learned what he can, which isn't much. He has a little bit. He needs a ton more.
If I have nowhere to go, I start looking into the victim themselves.
The people that have the best information about this victim are the family members. And of course, all these people are at the hospital at the bedside of the victim.
Relis was in the intensive care unit. He was unresponsive. He was connected to monitors, and he had a breathing tube to assist to keep his lungs going.
I just sat there and I held my dad's hand for a few minutes and contemplated on if he was actually going to come home to us. Because every little girl wants her dad to come home.
Relis grew up on a farm, in the farmland in the heart of Kansas. So he was a Kansas farm boy. And he had joined the U.S. Army fresh out of high school. Later on, Relis worked for a major telecommunications company.
My dad was a workaholic, supported my mom and 5 kids.
Relis Eastman was trying really, really hard to scrape out an honest living and keep his kids on track in an area where you're pretty much surrounded by horrible influences growing up.
Majorly protective. My dad did not like any use of drugs. Marijuana was not something he was okay with having in the house or around us kids. Hang in there, Dad.
At this point, police were sort of standing by to treat this as a homicide investigation.
You want to ask his son about the drugs?
Yeah, I do. Start with the wife, though.
Interviewing his wife, that's the quickest way to learn something about your victim.
The wife is always the closest to the victim, emotionally and often physically. So he talks to Kathleen Rognaby.
Kathleen, what can you tell us about your husband? I mean, how's the family dynamic?
We've got 5 kids in total.
We learned that they had 3 girls in common. And then from a previous marriage, Scott is Relis's son, Kathleen is his stepmom. And then there was a little boy, I believe he was 6 or 7 at the time.
How about your relationship with Relis?
Honestly, it's not great.
Relis and Kathleen were having marital problems. They were estranged, but they still lived together up until the time he was shot.
They sleep in separate rooms. They are going to organize themselves in a manner that they can then get a divorce.
I hate to say this, but he was just not a great husband.
Kathleen kind of wanted to paint Relis as kind of like a lech. Like he was always cheating, and he had all these women on the side.
That raises an eyebrow and is somewhat alarming to Colley.
We even threw around the idea that this could have been maybe a jealous husband or something that shot him.
So they finish with Kathleen Rognaby. They move to Scott, the 21-year-old son of Relis Eastman.
Scott, we really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us.
Whatever you need.
Scott kind of came off very unassuming. He was a kind of short, very scrawny kid. He spoke in a really weird cadence. He didn't really make eye contact.
He gets the feeling and drift from the conversation that Scott is not the sharpest knife in the drawer.
Look, we found something outside the house we were hoping you could help us out with.
We challenged him about why your backpack was in the backyard.
Scott admits, I use marijuana, but I leave it outside the house so I don't have a confrontation with my dad.
Scott said that he kind of had a strained relationship with his father. But he did say that he got along much better with his stepmom.
Scott, do you owe people money for drugs or anything like that?
No, I just smoke every now and then, that's all.
Talking to Scott, his low-level marijuana use, we didn't really see that as any type of link that would have gotten Relis killed.
Samantha, can you tell us what you were up to this afternoon?
Well, I was down the street at a friend's.
He described that he was with two of his buddies.
And they were playing video games, which is his routine. He often does this.
Scott said that he had been with these friends for the entire night, but he left for a short time. Relis would get upset when Scott drove at night, so Scott had to bring the car back.
Did you see your dad?
No,
Scott told us that he parked a block away and then walked back to his friend's house because he knew that if Dad saw him, that he would make him come into the house and he wouldn't be allowed to go play with his friends.
I get that, Scott. So my old man was strict too. We'll let you go on and get out of here, okay? All right.
They failed to get anywhere with the family as to what might be involved here. They decide to go in a different direction. They do a neighborhood follow-up, knocking and talking with the neighbors.
We wanted to see who had residential cameras so we could maybe see who had been coming and going from the scene of the crime that night.
The world is under surveillance by the government or by your neighbor, but by someone.
Walking around that area, we found a couple of homes that looked like they had video cameras on them.
When he sees a camera, he stops and puts a business card on the door with a note that's saying, "Please call me, I'd like to see your footage regarding an incident." Smart.
Let's check this out. I just got something pretty interesting.
When Collie returns to his headquarters building, he is greeted by the ballistics report of the recovered slug. It is a .22 long rifle, and it's fired from a very unusual gun.
We got really lucky because our expert was able to link it up to an H&R 999 revolver.
An H&R Model 999 is a very antiquated revolver. The revolver breaks in half to get the spent casings out.
It is clear it came from a Harrington and Richardson revolver and from no other. So that's interesting.
This is Detective Colley.
Another big break that we had in this case is when I got a call from a social worker at the hospital where Relis was. The social worker had some concerns regarding the Eastman family, saying that they wanted Relis officially dead for a potential insurance payout.
So it turns out that the policy had a value of $1 million. So that gives someone a million reasons to remove Mr. Eastman from the planet.
You know, earlier today, I got a call from one of Relis's coworkers.
This coworker told us stories about Relis and Kathleen and the dynamic of their relationship, about how conniving Kathleen was and how she kind of manipulated all the situations in her and Relis's life.
Colley begins to learn that Kathleen Rognaby has been bleeding Relis dry for 10 years, has had numerous affairs with other men, even produced a child with another man, still lives under his roof, still has him pay all of her bills.
It really painted Kathleen in a different light. Because since the beginning, Kathleen put herself forward as the victim, as Relis is the one that had all the girlfriends. But in reality, it was actually flipped. That Relis was just a really good-hearted man that was walked over constantly by Kathleen.
Yeah, I think we need to talk to Kathleen again.
He realizes it's time to rethink Kathleen. So on the 30th of June, the medical staff in the ICU ward at the hospital informs the family that Relis Eastman is effectively brain dead.
I am racking my brain on what to do.
Sweetie, it's time.
And so my mom signed the papers to pull the plug.
Kathleen Rognaby makes the decision to end Rellis Eastman's life. Now, is she within her rights to do that? Of course. But does she see $1 million in her future? And this is her motivation? Or does she want to stop the prolonged suffering of Rellis Eastman? Which is it? One or the other? So when Colley gets that call about Kathleen being overly interested in the $1 million insurance policy, he brings in Kathleen Rognaby for further conversations.
I was really, at that point, looking at Kathleen as one of the main suspects. A lot of it was us calling her onto the carpet about certain things.
Basically, Kathleen Rognaby doesn't really say anything. I'm not responsible for this. I'm not involved in this. I didn't do anything.
Would you mind if we took a look at your phone?
We were pretty just blunt about it. Like, hey, would you be willing to let us look through your phone to see if there's any evidence of this murder on it?
That's fine.
You could tell she was a little hesitant at first, but she gave over the phone.
She still wanted to play that, I'm being cooperative, don't look at me as a suspect.
Sit tight. We'll bring your phone back in a minute.
Colley and I started to go through things like her messages and her phone calls.
And instantly what he found was interesting to us.
We find out she's having an affair. There was a thread with a male that was pretty obvious that that was not just a platonic relationship.
She was taking risque photos and, sending them to other men.
That is truly interesting, but that's all it is.
I started to go through things like her searches. When it comes to your search history, it's gonna show what you want in life. It's gonna show your plans.
Okay, look.
We find out that she had been researching Rellis's life insurance about 3 weeks before he got murdered.
She has a very strong interest in the money that's involved in his life insurance policy.
It starts to make it look like Kathleen could have motive to be a part of this murder.
Can you tell us what you were doing the day your husband got shot?
She was able to provide receipts, and she was with her children in other parts of the city when the shooting occurred.
I don't think you could ask for a better alibi. There's no way in any sense of the imagination that she could have possibly done this, unless she's got an identical twin running around somewhere.
Here's a thought. What if someone else was in on it?
Like the guy she was seeing on the side?
Maybe. But who would benefit most from an insurance payout? Your son?
I remember telling Detective Colley, I really don't see Scott as walking into a phone booth saying Shazam and becoming this murderer. He didn't seem to have that in him. But Colley and I discussed that there could be a scenario in which Kathleen and Scott had worked together on this.
So what's going on here, Scott? We shall see.
Scott, we just want to go over what you were doing the night your father was murdered.
The problems that we started seeing with Scott during the second interview, he began adding stuff to his timeline and his whereabouts. He told me he had gone to a chain store to buy this huge box of condoms.
So you went for condoms with what money?
The wallet was in the backyard. So then the question is, well, how are you going to pay for these condoms if you don't have any money?
I had just gone to...
And that's really when he started kind of slipping. You could tell that he was making stuff up on the fly.
When you start making changes, my boy, you're digging yourself a grave.
It's absolutely attributed to Colley's interview tactics. He's someone that's going to ask you hard questions, and when he senses that you're lying, he's not going to leave that subject.
And out of nowhere, Scott tells us, oh, I exited out of the store that has the Echo ATM on that side. And I'll never forget, that really perked Detective Gonzalez's interest.
Working in property crimes, I knew what an Echo ATM was. It's an unmanned kiosk where you can sell your cell phone. And a lot of times when people have their phones stolen, it can end up in these kiosks.
Why would you randomly say, that you exited out of the store on the side that has the Echo ATM at it.
Scott says he stopped and got a few things when he was out that evening. Did you get some cash too, Scott, out of a cell phone machine?
The look on his face was like a cornered cat that just got caught.
I don't even have a cell phone.
He said he doesn't have a cell phone because he lost it. What if he needs to lose that phone because of what's in it? What better place to do it than there?
But no, if we find out you're lying to us, things are gonna get ugly. Officer, show him out.
So Colley is now faced with what? We have Mom, Kathleen Rocknaby, who has an ironclad alibi but a literal $1 million motive. Then we have Scott Eastman, who has a confused alibi and a somewhat altered one, but it's too early to say which of these could work. So we will continue to put one foot in front of the other.
My focus is on this, Eco ATM now. There's all these little hidden cameras all over the thing that take pictures of you and video of you throughout the entirety of your transaction.
Gonzalez calls the Eco ATM people, who are extremely cooperative, and provides Gonzalez with a video that may be of some use. They review that tape, and there is Scott Eastman.
It was approximately like maybe 5-6 hours before his father got murdered. He's at the kiosk selling this phone that he said doesn't exist, using an ID that he said he didn't have with him.
That was a big aha moment. Scott was going to these huge lengths to keep us from finding his cell phone, and we just found it.
So now we know Scott Eastman is a liar, and we can prove it. Why is he lying? That phone is probably going to tell us why he's lying.
We immediately went to the Echo ATM, got permission to get inside of it.
Wouldn't it be nice, as they say in the song, to find Scott's phone in that machine?
Okay, we're here. How do we get into this thing?
The person at the other end from Eco ATM told me these buttons to press that were kind of hidden around it. The ATM pops open, and at the very bottom, there's just this bin. And there's all these phones at the bottom.
They have just like a mountain of cell phones. And basically, you go through every single phone, you figure out how many of them are this right make and model.
I was nervous because I didn't want us to take this drive out there and then it not be there.
Here we go.
That's it?
Mm-hmm.
Nice job.
Finally, I found the right one, and I couldn't wait to get it back to the PD to download it.
Gonzalez races back to the station, does his magic on his computer.
Detective Gonzalez is the cell phone guru.
So the forensic software that we have will bring back deleted content. And the keyword search goes across Google searches, it goes across your text messages, it's gonna search all those at the same time. The very first search I did was for the .22 long rifle bullet.
When Gonzalez reviews the search information, he sits back in his chair and says, well, my, Scotty, you naughty little boy. What have you been doing? Nothing good.
Check this out.
There was just hundreds of searches that just blew up on the screen for how do I get .22 ammunition? Is .22 long rifle lethal?
Scott Eastman is searching for Harrington and Richardson .22 revolvers in gun auction sites.
It just wasn't that Scott was searching about guns or just searching about ammo. For weeks, Scott Eastman was searching the exact ammo and the exact gun that killed his father.
After I found those, I typed in MOM for mom, and the keyword search just blew up. And there was just hundreds and hundreds of searches about incestuous pornography, or specifically about having sex with your stepmother.
We believed, and we had evidence from his phone, that Scott was in love with his stepmom. He was very affectionate to her. He had some of those risque photos on his own phone.
Scott Eastman apparently has a sexual fantasy about his stepmother. That's very, very strange.
That was like one of those like true like jaw-dropping moments, because I believe that he got it in his head that if Dad was eliminated, that they would have had his life insurance payout, and that would have made him one step closer to fulfilling whatever twisted fantasy he had about his stepmother.
So now they focus on the timeline of Eastman when he said he left his friend's house to return the family car.
Originally, Scott said that he left his friend's house because it was getting dark, and he parked the car and then came immediately back. When we verified that story with the father of one of his two friends, the father told us that Scott did leave, but he was gone for like a 45-minute period.
45 minutes. Are you sure?
Almost positive.
When we compared that to what Scott had told us, Scott made it sound like, oh, it was this, 10-minute time period. Again, the friends lived close to where Scott was. It's in walking distance.
So what was Scott doing for most of those 45 minutes? Could it be that he was executing his own father? As Colley is considering all of this, he finally hears back from a neighbor that has a surveillance camera that covers the street in front of Eastman's home.
It took a while for us to get this video. It was on a street right off of Bigelow where this murder happened.
When you look at the video from that house, it shows that at 8:53, Scott parks. He exits the driver's seat, but he doesn't go west, which is where his friend's house was, which is where he said he had been. It's going back home to where his father was shot.
He specifically told us that I didn't want to be seen by my dad because he would have made me stay in for the night. And he's literally on surveillance doing the exact thing he said he didn't do.
When he returns in the frame, he's coming from the direction of his own home. He opens the trunk of that car and probably concealed the weapon in the trunk of his car.
And that was the moment when everything else just kind of fell off to the side, and we knew Scott was our shooter.
So Detective Colley calls in Scott Eastman for another interview. They would like to get a statement from him that he's responsible for this crime.
Scott knew nothing at this point that we had all these searches, and I started really showing him, like, you need to come clean.
I like you the best, and I know that you feel the best when you're being honest. It's not forced. You don't have to think about it.
And then I got very confrontational with him.
Tell me about those searches.
They show him a printout of his search history for 22 pistols, for ammunition, for what it'll do to a human body.
I remember he was looking down at the paper, and he got this really tiny, meek little voice. And he just said,
That came from my phone? Your phone, yes. No.
I said, you're like interviewing 101. Every time that you tell a lie, like your body language gets smaller and your voice gets weaker.
Now, this isn't like randomness. It's all from the same phone that I recovered from the kiosk that you dropped your phone off at. Tell me what that means. What the I mean, who did? Who did? I don't know.
I think it really flustered him to attempt to make up these storylines on the spot.
So, I get when you might see something like this that you're like, God damn it. Like in your mind, that's not me. But the simple fact is that it is you.
I said, I know that you murdered your father, and here's all the evidence to prove it.
There was a long pause, and Scott eventually just said, I need a lawyer.
Scott was told from the get, like, you're free to leave at any time.
Scott Eastman has walked out of this interview in the hope that everything is just going to disappear. The difference is, when everything is said and done, Scott Eastman is going to disappear into a prison. Colley and Gonzalez have the evidence required to pursue Eastman for the murder of his father. But they wanted to try for a statement, and it didn't happen. So now they will take the next logical step. They will apply for and receive a warrant for the arrest of Mr. Eastman for the murder of his father.
I assembled an arrest team to go arrest him at his house. We all went there in full gear. You start dealing with people inside of a house, and things can go bad really quick.
We're sitting in the living room, and all of a sudden, there is banging on the front door.
I'll get it.
My mom is next to me. I open the door an inch. And by the time I have it open an inch,
Hands. Let me see your hands.
we are pushed into the corner with policemen running into the house.
Hands up. Kathleen, where's Scott? Get up. Your hands.
And he stands up calmly. He's like, I'm right here. And they read him his rights and they handcuff him. And I remember hearing them say,
Scott Eastman, you're under arrest for the murder of Relis Carl Eastman III.
I didn't know how to react. I'm thinking they gotta be wrong. It's not possible that Scott would do this to us. It's not possible for Scott to have shot our own dad.
When it comes to murder, nothing is impossible, my dear.
Scott, he goes willingly. There's no issue. And Colley is talking to Kathleen. And one thing I remember very vividly is Colley saying, you know he's in love with you.
And I told Kathleen he murdered his own father thinking that you two were going to run off into the sunset. And the look on her face was bizarre, like almost like, wow, did he really say that about me?
And I just thought about how that was kind of like an odd reaction.
What I believe occurred on June 25th of 2016 is Scott did park his car on the next street over. Scott then casually walked to his house and was met or confronted by his dad in the garage.
Are you high again?
No.
Don't lie to me. If I catch you doing drugs, you are out of here. Do you understand me?
I think Relis turned and just walked back into his kitchen because he knew who the person was. And I don't think Relis saw that as a threat.
Scott waited for his opportunity, and when Relis walked toward the kitchen, Scott came up behind him with a .22 caliber revolver.
Scott fired that weapon, and one of the projectiles hit Relis in the back of the head. And then based on surveillance, Scott then ran out of the house, back the way he came. He stopped briefly at the car, and I believe that Scott broke open the top of that revolver. And if you break those open too fast, the casings will go everywhere, which one of them was later found in the spare tire area of that car.
Colley and Gonzalez believe this is how the incident transpired. And when they take Mr. Eastman to trial, that a jury finds Scott Eastman guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of the murder of his father. As a result of that finding, a judge sentences Scott Eastman to 55 years to life in the California penal system for this homicide.
Kathleen was never arrested or charged with anything because there was no evidence that linked her to the murder.
As far as the insurance money was split equally between Eastman's children, aside from the murderous one, of course.
I could not conceive of that type of violence. For Scott to pull a trigger, killing his father, it was not something that was anywhere in my imagination.
For him to take our father away from us, it's a horrid thing. Because I won't have my dad to walk me down the aisle. I won't have him to meet the grandkids. I won't have him. I won't have my own dad.
Over those weeks investigating Rellis Eastman's murder, I came to really see what a good-hearted man he was. I was proud to play a part in getting justice for Rellis.
Rellis Eastman brought Scott into the world. And 21 years later, Scott takes Rellis out of it. Something profoundly wrong with that, but murder always is.
What if mind control is real?
If you could control the behavior of anybody around you, what kind of life would you have?
Can you hypnotically persuade someone to buy a car?
When you look at your car, you're going to become overwhelmed with such good feelings.
Can you hypnotize someone into sleeping with you?
I gave her some suggestions to be sexually aroused.
Can you get someone to join your cult?
NLP was used on me to access my subconscious.
Mind Games, a new podcast exploring NLP, aka Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Is it a self-help miracle, a shady hypnosis scam, or both? Listen to Mind Games on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, all my people. What's up? It's Questlove. Recently, I had the opportunity to sit down with the one and only A$AP Rocky. He reflects on his journey from Harlem roots to global icon status and discovering the hip-hop origin of his name.
The Ledge was on the TV. Rakim had the bucket hat Kango joint on. My pops was like, that's Rakim. That's who you named after. I just was like, damn, that got swag.
But listen to The Questlove Show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast.
This season on Dear Chelsea with me, Chelsea Handler, we've got some incredible guests like Kumail Nanjiani. Let's start with your cat. How is she?
She is not with us anymore.
Okay, great way to start. Maybe you will cry. Ross Matthews.
You know what kids always say to me? Are you a boy or a girl?
Oh my God.
All the
That's
time.
So funny.
I know.
love it.
So I try to butch it up for kids so they're not confused.
Yeah, but you're butching it up is
It's,
basically like
an angry woman.
It's like Doris Day. or
Right?
something.
No, I turn into B. Arthur.
Listen to these episodes of Dear Chelsea on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The pressure was on Las Cruces police to solve what was called the worst killing in 20 years.
We never had a case where 3 people had been killed all in one home and all at one time.
For prosecutor Amy Orlando, the unsolved case shattered this safe and affluent community.
People were concerned and they were fearful. That was something very unusual for our community.
But the suspect would turn the police's investigation inside out.
These guys think they're gods with power. Well, I'm not a god, but I have powers of a god, and I'm going to show them what the powers are.
Today we're back in the remote hills of Las Cruces, New Mexico, for the conclusion of Murder in the Desert. I'm Sloan Glass, and this is American Homicide. The views and opinions expressed are solely those of the individuals participating. This podcast also contains subject matter which may not be suitable for all audiences. Discretion is advised.
New Mexico's an odd state because if you go up to northern New Mexico, you're going to just see a lot more museums and a lot of art. And then you get down south and we're still kind of slow moving here.
Las Cruces is where Amy Orlando started her 19-year career as a prosecutor.
We don't honk at people a lot when they're going the wrong way or going too slow. I like to think we're a little bit more friendly. We have a lot of ranchers and farmers here. And then we have, I think, 5 or 6 Starbucks. And so I think that tells you kind of the size of what we are.
Actually, Las Cruces is a city of 100,000. But those who live there say it feels like a small town.
I like that it feels safe. And that we lock our doors, but you could still walk around at night. You don't feel like you just have to rush to your car when you're leaving the mall. We have our crime, but we have great law enforcement, and it just feels like it's still safe.
That safe feeling was shattered in 2010 following the triple murder of Jill and Helga Delisle and Peter Wythe.
This was the biggest homicide that we had had since the 80s. And trust me, as the prosecutor, leading kind of the legal part of it and working with law enforcement, we all felt that stress because we did not want to be, the group that went down to not solve a triple homicide, which was our biggest case of that nature in Las Cruces.
As the months passed, it appeared from the outside that the investigation had stalled. But the reality was very different.
We narrowed in on kind of one suspect, and his name was Gino Ferri.
Gino Ferri was a contractor who did some business with the victims, but the deal went south. After Gino's tab climbed above $1 million, Jill sued him. But Gino filed for bankruptcy. A lengthy court battle ensued. The day before the conclusion of that trial, Jill, his wife Helga, and his business partner, Peter Wythe, were murdered.
Gino claimed he had an alibi and had nothing to do with it. And so we knew we had to prove it.
By the spring of 2011, nearly a year after the murders, a witness named Ricky Huckabee began cooperating with investigators. Ricky was a convicted felon who served 10 years in prison and later did some odd jobs with Gino, including driving Gino to the Delisle's house on the day of the murders.
He tells us the events that happened up to the killing of the victims.
There was no question. Ricky was afraid of Gino, so the police offered to protect him. In return, Ricky would record his conversations with Gino. But getting Gino to talk freely about murdering 3 people wasn't easy.
So Mr. Huckabee, I think, was getting a little frustrated with Gino because he'd always talk in circles. He knew what to say without saying anything. We tell him, you just got to try and get him to talk about it, but you can't put words in his mouth, but you got to get him to talk about it.
One afternoon, Ricky found a way.
There's one point in the investigation where he said to Gino, well, would you really do it again? Would you do anything different? And Gino said to him, yes, I would do it again.
As open and shut of a confession as that seems, it still wasn't enough for the DA. They were still building their case. That became a familiar refrain to Detective Robin Gojkovic.
We were frustrated. It was already almost a year, and we're still gathering evidence. We want to put this guy away. We know for a fact that he killed these people, but yet he's still walking the streets, in our community where our families live. And he's dangerous, and to the point where we as detectives have to take different routes home because he knows where we live.
Investigators started looking over their shoulders because Gino seemed to be watching them.
He was a type of individual that thought he was smarter than everybody and he could get away with anything that he did. And we needed to keep an eye on him to prevent other crimes from happening and to prevent him from leaving town. Mexico's right there. And he had the money to leave.
At one point, detectives placed what's called a bird dog, or a GPS tracker, on Gino's vehicle. That same day, something unsettling happened.
We went back to the sheriff's department, did a briefing, then Gino Ferri was parked across the street and just sitting there. And it was almost like he was conducting his own surveillance on us. And he had the mentality of like, he was like the Godfather, you know.
I know this sounds more and more like a movie plot, but it wasn't. These were real cops in New Mexico trying to put this guy away, all while looking over their shoulders and worrying about their loved one's safety. But if they arrested Gino now without a formal charge, there would be nothing keeping him in police custody.
And from that point, we almost took a different path on getting Gino Ferri.
Authorities went after Gino the same way law enforcement took down old school gangsters like Al Capone.
Okay, if we can't get him on the homicide right now, let's get him on a white-collar crime.
Detectives knew that Gino had gone through bankruptcy proceedings, and in digging deeper, he had just gotten divorced. Police took that information and connected it to a tip that Ricky Huckabee provided. He said that Gino had a bunch of storage units where he hid property and assets from the courts, which is against the law.
He had cars. At one point, he had preschool stuff, like chairs and desks and stuff.
But more than just preschool furniture turned up.
We found over 100 guns in multiple large safes that belonged to Gino.
The detectives must have been thrilled. This was the breakthrough they were looking for, but none of the guns matched up with the bullets found at the crime scene. But then, something odd happened. When detectives opened the door to another of the storage units, they were speechless.
We found over 500 animals, like exotic animals, like lions, tigers, full-size animals, bears, deer, elk, rhinos.
Just to be clear, these animals weren't alive. They were stuffed and mounted. Not to mention, some of them were endangered species.
He claimed he was going to use the animals for a museum here in Las Cruces. In my career, I've never seen anything like it.
These hundreds of stuffed, life-size animals that Gino had hidden were valued at, and get this, $1.25 million. And hiding those assets from the courts is a crime known as possession of encumbered property.
We can get this guy. We can get him off the streets. So using the white-collar crime to get him off the streets was the way we needed to go. So we could actually take our time on the homicide and get everything that we needed to make sure it was a solid case so he would not get out.
On April 8th, 2012, police went to the DA to state their case. They had Gino's taped confession to Ricky Huckabee. They also had him on encumbered property. Plus, there was the growing fear that Gino was stalking them and could retaliate.
He's a scary guy, and we don't want that kind of person in our community.
This time, the district attorney had a change of heart.
He gave me the green light. You have enough to make an arrest on this guy.
Just a couple days shy of the 1-year mark of the murders, detectives finally got a warrant for Gino Ferry's arrest.
I was super excited, super nervous, super anxious. And then I get a phone call saying, we're tracking him, he's leaving town.
The GPS tracker on Gino's vehicle showed Gino heading south for the border.
We thought that somehow he had found out that we were about to charge him, and we think he's fleeing.
Sergeant Joe Renault knew Gino had a second home in Mexico.
And so we did not want him to hide down there because he had the funds. We believed he had money stashed and other items possibly that he could turn over for money.
Aside from a lengthy extradition process, the authorities had other fears.
He had tons of guns, long-range rifles and stuff like that.
And the race to catch Gino Ferry was on.
That day was very intense.
I-10 is the highway from Las Cruces that leads to Mexico. That afternoon, it quickly filled with squad cars heading south.
We have other units, other detectives going. Everybody is just anxious about getting this guy.
Authorities believe they could catch Gino just north of the border in El Paso, which is about 45 miles away.
We tracked him through GPS on a laptop.
The bird dog they placed on Gino's vehicle allowed them to follow his every move.
It's about a 45-minute drive, depending on traffic. And doing over 100 miles an hour, it took us about 20 minutes.
Finally, the string of cop cars caught up with Gino's vehicle in El Paso. That's where they were joined by El Paso police and the SWAT team.
We get to El Paso, we're in communication with El Paso Police Department. He's here at this location, he's at this intersection.
Investigators watched as Gino pulled into a parking lot in a secluded area.
And we call them and like, move now, move now. And so El Paso PD, we all move in on him as he's getting out of the vehicle, and we're able to get him right there at the vehicle.
Police arrested Gino Ferry without incident and charged him with concealing encumbered property.
They take him to El Paso Sheriff's Department, and we go up there to see if he will give us a statement. And of course, he said he didn't want to talk to us.
Even with Gino in custody, the police had work to do.
It's not over. We still needed the murder weapon. And once we put him in jail, Ricky Huckabee was just like, okay, let's talk.
Did Ricky Huckabee, the man who told police he drove Gino Ferry to the DeLios home the day they were murdered, know more than he was letting on? And if he did, what was he holding back? Detectives were about to find out.
What if mind control is real?
If you could control the behavior of anybody around you, what kind of life would you have?
Can you hypnotically persuade someone to buy a car?
When you look at your car, you're going to become overwhelmed with such good feelings.
Can you hypnotize someone into sleeping with you?
I gave her some suggestions to be sexually aroused.
Can you get someone to join your cult?
NLP was used on me to access my subconscious.
NLP, aka Neuro-Linguistic Programming, is a blend of hypnosis, linguistics, and psychology. Fans say it's like finally getting a user manual for your brain.
It's about engineering consciousness.
Mind Games is the story of NLP. Its crazy cast of disciples and the fake doctor who invented it at a New Age commune and sold it to guys in suits. He stood trial for murder and got acquitted. The biggest mind game of all? NLP might actually work.
This is wild.
Listen to Mind Games on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey there, this is Dr. Jesse Mills, director of the Men's Clinic at UCLA Health and host of the Mailroom podcast. Each January, guys everywhere make the same resolutions. Get stronger, work harder, fix what's broken. But what if the real work isn't physical at all? To kick off the new year, I sat down with Dr. Steve Poulter, a psychologist with over 30 years' experience helping men unpack shame, anxiety, and emotional pain they were never taught to name. In a powerful two-part conversation, we discuss why men aren't emotionally bulletproof, why shame hides in plain sight, and how real strength comes from listening to yourself and to others.
Guys who are toxic, they're immature, or they've got something they just haven't resolved. Once that gets resolved, then there comes empathy and some compassion.
If you want this to be the year you stop powering through pain and start understanding what's underneath, listen to The Mailroom on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your favorite shows.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Questlove. Recently, I had the opportunity to sit down with A$AP Rocky ahead of his album release, Don't Be Dumb. He reflects on his journey from his Harlem roots to global icon status, discovering the hip-hop origin of his name.
The Ledge was on the TV. Rakim had the bucket hat Kango joint on. My pops was like, that's Rakim. That's who you named after. I just was like, damn, that got swag.
Rocky offers a window into not only a boundary-breaking artist, but as a man committed to fusing creative ideas, community, and remaining unapologetically himself. Have you ever gotten roasted for any of your outfits?
For sure. Some people don't be getting the vision. Look, they could roast me, they could cook me, they could deep fry me, they could saute, whatever they want. There's nobody who could with my fashion sense and my taste is impeccable. I'm just like, I impress myself a lot.
It's an amazing conversation, one you definitely don't want to miss. So listen to The Questlove Show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Police charged Gino Ferry with concealing encumbered property. And they believed he was also responsible for the murders of Jill and Helga Delisle and Peter Wythe. For Sergeant Renault and his team to charge Gino for those crimes, they needed to find the murder weapon.
The crime lab calls us, and they did in fact confirm that all three were killed with a 9mm handgun, which was an Uzi-type weapon, which leaves very distinctive marks. We eventually discovered that Gino owned a weapon like this.
That information came courtesy of their informant, Ricky Huckabee. With Gino now behind bars, Ricky seemed more at ease and revealed some additional information about what happened after the murders, when Gino went to a public bathroom at a park to change his clothes.
Ricky remembered that when Gino had arrived back at the park where they had planned to meet, Gino had gone into the portable outdoor bathroom latrine, and he walked in with a duffel bag and he walked out without the bag. And as soon as he got back in the car, he looked at Ricky and said, "Man, I think I just up." And as time went on and as we started to work together, he started to realize, I think maybe the gun's in there.
So if Gino did dispose of his murder weapon in that park outhouse, the chances of finding a gun in an outhouse toilet a year later were slim to none. But for Sergeant Renault, it was worth a look.
And I said, "Shine a light down that dang toilet, please, and tell me what you see." He calls me back. He says, "Yeah, I see a lot of crap." And I said, well, "What else do you see?" He says, "I see a gun. It looks like an Uzi." It's literally half a mile from our department. I hauled butt over there and I looked in the toilet. Sure enough, there it was, just laying there, straight down.
On the bottom of the outhouse toilet sat the murder weapon.
This gun's been sitting in this toilet for a year. It was rusty. It had stuff all over it.
So who was going to fish the gun out of that toilet?
I got the honors of dropping a magnet down and getting it because nobody wanted to go in there. And the magnet was able to pick it up. And we pulled it up, and it was the most disgusting piece of evidence I have ever recovered in my career. And we put it in a box. I had to let it air dry. And from there, it went to the crime lab. I thought there's no way this gun is going to fire again. The lab did what they do, and they called us 2 weeks later and said, it's a match. That was just incredible.
12 days after being arrested in El Paso, and just a year after the triple homicide, authorities were finally able to charge Gino Ferry with 3 counts of first-degree murder.
We held a news conference, and they wanted, all the investigators up there behind me. They asked me, "Were you afraid of Gino?" And I said, "Yeah." We all were.
You rarely hear cops get emotional, but talking about the threat that Gino was to the public and to law enforcement struck a nerve for Sergeant Renaud.
We knew what he was capable of. And we knew that you could get within 100 yards of every entrance at our sheriff's department. And he had guns, and we believed he still had guns that were capable of hitting their mark. And he was very familiar with all types of weapons, and it was just something that was within his mentality to pull off.
That afternoon, Sergeant Renaud proudly stood with his team of investigators to announce Gino's arrest.
Mr. Fadi was the initial person of interest based on the information that we initially got that he was a defendant in civil litigation filed by Gilles Delisle against him. And then when the Delisles did not show up for the final court hearing on that, the day their bodies were discovered, that was the first place we went.
Prosecutor Amy Orlando also spoke at that press conference and shared what Gino told Ricky Huckabee right after the murders.
The defendant made the remark that what he did at the Delisle's home, it felt good to him.
In May 2013, 2 years after his arrest, Gino's case finally went to trial. Just as it was about to begin, more threats came from Gino.
One of the good things that is a law enforcement tool is we're able to listen in on phone calls that happen at the jail. Well, he started to make threats saying he was going to take somebody out during the trial. He was going to do it in front of the jury. It was going to be on camera.
I will get my vengeance when I get the out of here. That's all that counts, okay? They've kicked me in the ass. It's time to do some kicking myself. This is bull between these cops, that idiot, and all these other guys that are coming after me. These guys think they're gods with power. Well, I'm not a god, but I have powers of a god, and I'm going to show them what the powers are.
And so we had to have the bomb dogs come. We had snipers on the roof every day, and lunch break, any break, they combed the courthouse with the dogs. There was extra security in the courtroom. In fact, we were told by the judge if we wanted to that as the attorneys, we all had the right to wear like a bulletproof vest under our clothes.
They locked me up in this shithole, and they don't expect me to have feelings. They don't expect me to be angry for something I haven't done. And the I'm going through, them all. Let us have a war when I get the out of here. I don't believe in the government, county, city, state, federal, anything. This government could go themselves.
Everyone was just on heightened alert.
Were Gino's threats real? Or was it just another way to intimidate his latest foe?
I mean, he had killed 3 people, so no doubt he's evil and he's dangerous. But you just can't let that get to you or you'd be preoccupied with it.
Even with the extra security came another threat.
We uncovered a plot to kill Ricky Huckabee, a legitimate plot with a known cartel member.
Ricky Huckabee was the prosecution's star witness, and this plot to assassinate him led Sergeant Renaud to personally escort him in and out of the courthouse.
And I haven't seen that done, that much security for a case.
For his protection, Ricky was even moved down to the state. But Gino's lawyer, Gary Mitchell, believed these threats were all taken out of context.
The state tried to exploit everything they could about Gino's profile. The way he talks and his A-type personality profiles him as somebody, well, this is a gangster kind of guy that will do whatever to get whatever. And that profiles him. It's wrong to profile him that way. For Gino, it was sort of funny. I mean, he just said, okay, why not? The Sopranos was a popular show. He can act like he's from New Jersey, and he can act like he's a tough guy. That's the way people saw him. He could fit in and have fun with it.
Tough guy Gino Ferry gritted his teeth as Ricky walked to the witness stand wearing a bulletproof vest. The judge even ordered photographers not to take pictures of Ricky's face in order to protect him. On the witness stand, Ricky Huckabee testified that Gino confessed to him. According to Ricky, Gino used a key to get inside the Delisle's house and wore a mask and rubber gloves. When Gio Delisle first arrived, Gino shot him repeatedly. A short time later, Peter Wythe unexpectedly showed up. Gino grabbed him by the back of the head and then forced him into a bathroom shower where he shot him. When Helga arrived, Gino shot her once in the back of the neck. Ricky testified that he kept quiet because Gino threatened him, and that's why he originally didn't want to cooperate with investigators. It was damning testimony against Gino, although his lawyer thought otherwise. Here's Gary Mitchell again.
I think this idea that Rick Huckabee says that Gino confessed to him is a bunch of nonsense. I don't think Gino confessed to him. It's not in his nature to go confess to somebody like that. I think that's just Rick Huckabee, as I said to the jury, trying to protect himself, point the finger at Gino, and help the state out, and realizing, well, the state now has all the power. My friend, whom I really liked because he took care of me and helped me out and this sort of thing, no longer has the power, and the state has the power, so I'm going to go with the state.
Along with calling Ricky Huckabee a liar, Gino's attorney argued that Gino wasn't the killer because he couldn't be in two places at once.
We had an alibi. Depending on the time you're talking about, he was either eating a meal or he was visiting with a friend that he had here.
When clients face murder charges, most lawyers try to keep them off the witness stand. But when you have an ego as big as Gino's, there was no keeping him from testifying. Gino emphatically denied confessing to Ricky Huckabee. He testified that during that 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. window, when the murders happened, he was at a friend's house and then grabbed a hot pastrami sandwich from a deli. He even had a receipt, time-stamped 6:09 p.m. that backed up his story.
Our sandwich receipt showed that it was impossible for him to have done this.
But prosecutors said, not so fast. The owner of that deli, where Gino was said to be at 6:09 p.m., testified that the clocks on his cash register were wrong. They were an hour behind because they hadn't been adjusted for daylight savings time. That would put Gino at the deli at 7:09 p.m. A deli employee even testified that Gino left the deli around 7:45 p.m.
It was a neat argument that the state made, which made our defense a lot weaker because they threw out this suggestion to the jury that we didn't have the correct time, that we were an hour early or an hour late.
And remember how Gino said he was with a friend at the time of the murders? Well, Gino's friend testified that Gino called him on his way over sometime around 5 p.m. But Gino's phone records showed no such phone call. That visit with his friend was something new to prosecutor Amy Orlando. She asked Gino why he failed to mention this visit when he first talked with investigators. Gino muttered that he simply forgot. The judge had to tell the usually brash and boisterous Gino to speak up because he was speaking so quietly.
He turned his back to me to the point that the judge had to call his defense counsel up to say, that's not really effective. The jury isn't going to like that. And his defense attorney was like, I can't control him. The judge had to order him to turn around.
Gino later admitted to lying under oath during previous hearings for divorce and bankruptcy. He proudly said, I'll lie to protect what's not right.
I knew that I was getting under his skin, which, just affirms that One, that I'm right, meaning that we had the right person and that you have no doubt, and the fact that he was trying to control even that situation, and I wasn't going to let him control it.
From day one, prosecutors focused on Gino Ferry. This was something that his defense attorney pointed out to the jury.
It could have been any number of people. And I wanted the jury to take a good hard look at that and say, listen, I mean, just because the district attorney selects this one person doesn't necessarily mean these others should be off the hook. And we, in fact, argued during the case that there were other people that were around that could have easily have done this.
Gio DeLisle was not only a businessman, but also an inventor. At the time of his death, he was negotiating the sale of another invention, something said to extend gas mileage by 30%. The proceeds of the sale would have gone to charity. But just before the sale, two of his partners involved in the invention mysteriously died. One was poisoned, and the other fell off a ladder while repairing his roof.
There were a lot of people that could have done this, other than Gino. Here's the bottom line. You screw with people from a business sense to the point that you bankrupt them, to the point that you take everything away from them, and you think in this day and age people aren't going to get upset over that kind of stuff? Those chickens come home to roost after a while.
Gino's defense team wanted the jury to know that someone else had a motive.
At the end of the day, it was a tough, hard-nosed, tried case in which the lawyers brought out everything that they could, and jurors are left with jumping to one conclusion or the other.
The worst part for a prosecutor is when the jury leaves the courtroom to deliberate, because there's absolutely nothing else we can do.
Just before noon that day, the jury began deliberations, and lawyers prepared for a long night of waiting.
It was nerve-wracking because you never know what a jury's going to believe.
What if mind control is real?
If you could control the behavior of anybody around you, what kind of life would you have?
Can you hypnotically persuade someone to buy a car?
When you look at your car, you're going to become overwhelmed with such good feelings.
Can you hypnotize someone into sleeping with you?
I gave her some suggestions to be sexually aroused.
Can you get someone to join your cult?
NLP was used on me to access my subconscious.
NLP, aka Neuro-Linguistic Programming, is a blend of hypnosis, linguistics, and psychology. Fans say it's like finally getting a user manual for your brain.
It's about engineering consciousness.
Mind Games is the story of NLP. Its crazy cast of disciples and the fake doctor who invented it at a New Age commune and sold it to guys in suits. He stood trial for murder and got acquitted. The biggest mind game of all? NLP might actually work.
This is wild.
Listen to Mind Games on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey there, this is Dr. Jesse Mills, director of the Men's Clinic at UCLA Health and host of the Mailroom podcast. Each January, guys everywhere make the same resolutions. Get stronger, work harder, fix what's broken. But what if the real work isn't physical at all? To kick off the new year, I sat down with Dr. Steve Poulter, a psychologist with over 30 years' experience helping men unpack shame, anxiety, and emotional pain they were never taught to name. In a powerful two-part conversation, we discuss why men aren't emotionally bulletproof, why shame hides in plain sight, and how real strength comes from listening to yourself and to others.
Guys who are toxic, they're immature, or they've got something they just haven't resolved. Once that gets resolved, then there comes empathy and some compassion.
If you want this to be the year you stop powering through pain and start understanding what's underneath, listen to The Mailroom on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your favorite shows.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Questlove. Recently, I had the opportunity to sit down with A$AP Rocky ahead of his album release, Don't Be Dumb. He reflects on his journey from his Harlem roots to global icon status, discovering the hip-hop origin of his name.
The Ledge was on the TV. Rakim had the bucket hat Kango joint on. My pops was like, that's Rakim. That's who you named after. I just was like, damn, that got swag.
Rocky offers a window into not only a boundary-breaking artist, but as a man committed to fusing creative ideas, community, and remaining unapologetically himself. Have you ever gotten roasted for any of your outfits?
For sure. Some people don't be getting the vision. Look, they could roast me, they could cook me, they could deep fry me, they could saute, whatever they want. There's nobody who could with my fashion sense and my taste is impeccable. I'm just like, I impressed myself a lot.
It's an amazing conversation, one you definitely don't want to miss. So listen to The Questlove Show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
The trial of legendary 19th century outlaw Billy the Kid happened just south of where Gino Ferry now awaited his fate. Jurors heard 6 days worth of testimony and saw nearly 250 pieces of evidence under a heavy blanket of security thanks to a number of threats.
I was authorized to do whatever it took to secure that courthouse.
Sergeant Joe Renault not only investigated the case, but oversaw courtroom security.
We had undercover agents inside the courtroom, undercover agents outside the courtroom, cameras rolling. We had snipers. We had Ricky Huckabee in a bulletproof vest, and we didn't take any chances.
Ricky Huckabee was the prosecution's key witness, but there were fears he wouldn't make it into the courthouse alive.
We had verified information of a planned assassination attempt of Ricky Huckabee.
Although there were no incidents during the trial, additional law enforcement joined the already packed courtroom once the jury returned with a verdict. And although the lawyers were expecting a long wait, the jury returned with their answer relatively quickly.
Normally when it's a long trial, they deliberate for a long period of time.
The fact that they deliberated for just 2.5 hours stuck out to prosecutor Amy Orlando.
So when they came back quickly, it's always an uneasy feeling. It's obviously either a good sign or bad sign.
Defense attorney Gary Mitchell read a little deeper into the jury's short deliberation.
It wasn't days later that it came in, it was hours. And I told Gino, I said, it's not long enough to have an acquittal. So prepare yourself.
On the 3 counts of first-degree murder, the jury found Gino Ferry guilty. From the back of the courthouse came a scream. It was Gino's mother. An undercover agent stood behind her, just in case she started any trouble, but nothing happened.
It was a relief because it had taken us 2-3 years to get to trial, and finally to be able to give the victims some closure, even though they're deceased, but to know who killed them, and then to give the survivors around them and our community that Gino was never going to be on the street again.
The judge sentenced Gino Ferry to 3 life sentences. He was 50 years old at the time of his sentencing and won't be eligible for parole for 90 years. Gino didn't utter a word. He just stood there emotionless, while prosecutors embraced one another and celebrated their victory.
We knew that we had the right person in jail and charged with the crimes.
There's TV shows out there that say if a murder's not solved within 48 hours, most likely it will never be solved. So when this verdict was read on Gino, I was blown away.
For Sergeant Renault, the long, complicated, and dangerous case was finally over. And it featured many firsts.
I would tell these guys in the investigative team, watch your back. Don't take the same route home every time. Don't eat at the same restaurants every day. Tell your girlfriends to be careful. First time I've ever had to do that in my career. With all the homicides that I worked, all the officer-involved shootings I've worked, and never in my wildest dreams would I have to tell cops to be super extra careful and protect their families. Because Gino was just a hothead. He was a hothead, and if you said the wrong thing, it pressed a button and the fuse was lit.
Gino's defense attorney believed the jurors had made up their minds long before his closing arguments.
They jumped pretty quick to that one conclusion because primarily that gun business. And here's the big thing that overshadowed the whole trial. The number of homicides involved. I mean, excuse me, this was not a single homicide. This looked like somebody had gotten angry about something, and so it all sort of fit in to point the finger at Gino.
He believes that Ricky Huckabee was responsible for the triple murders.
Rick Huckabee walked away from this case. Interesting, isn't it, that he walks away? I think that a lot more of this evidence pointed toward Rick Huckabee than to my client. But I'm not the prosecuting attorney, and I'm not the investigating police departments.
Ricky Huckabee drove Gino to the DeLisle's house and even called the house while Gino was there killing Jill, Helga, and Peter. Ricky was never charged, but Sergeant Renault understands why people believe he could have been connected to the murders.
Could he have been more knowledgeable than what he let on? Sure. You know, they could have hashed this out and said, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to kill these people, and this is our plan. But we never got any evidence to support that. I honestly, truly believe Ricky Huckabee is a decent person and did the right thing and took great courage to do what he did. Huge courage. Ricky Huckabee, wherever he is now, and he's still in danger. He is absolutely still in danger. I don't know where he's at. I wish him well.
New Mexico state law automatically triggers an appeal for anyone sentenced to life in prison. In 2015, the New Mexico Supreme Court upheld Gino's conviction. He will be eligible for parole when he is 142 years old. With Gino now behind bars for life, the city of Las Cruces slowly returned to being that safe, small, tight-knit city. Sometimes too small for Sergeant Renault.
And how small of a world it is over here. My daughter was playing soccer for a local high school, and an incoming freshman stood up and said, my dad is in prison for killing people. And happened to be Gino's daughter. And, you know, that's how small of a town this is. Gino has a son and a daughter, and they've turned out to be great people.
But Gino Ferry would never be done. In 2018, Gino filed a civil lawsuit against the New Mexico Department of Corrections. He alleged that his constitutional rights were violated following what's known as a facility shakedown. That's when prisoners place their belongings in a bin and items that don't fit in that bin are sent to the prisoner's home. In his 133-page complaint, he voiced his anger that some clothing and 4 AA batteries were taken from him. He demanded the prison provide him with a desk and called out one of the guards for being a, quote, narcissist. In 2020, a judge dismissed his suit. Today, Gino remains in a medium security prison in New Mexico.
We got the son of a bitch. That's the only thing that mattered to me.
For Gio's friend and neighbor, Bob Senecal, he still holds on to his anger.
I know they don't have the death penalty in the state, but he's gone for the rest of his natural life. And he deserves it. And I, for one, hope he rots in hell.
Back in 2011, nearly a year after the triple murders, Bob wrote a letter to the editor that was critical of law enforcement's handling of the case.
A week later, they arrested Gino. So I had to write a mea culpa saying, I'm glad you guys did your job, and I'm sorry I tried to rat you out.
In the end, Bob believes it all boils down to one thing.
There's a lot of good people in this world, and there are some bad people in this world. And as long as the good people try to keep the bad people under control, we're going to be okay.
During those months following the murders, an outlaw named Gino Ferry continued to walk the streets of Las Cruces. It was something that scared Ricky Huckabee and even law enforcement. But for Bob Senecal, he actually hoped he would run into Gino.
I kept my 12 gauge under my bed because I was just praying he'd come and talk to me.
Next time on American Homicide, a beaten and bruised woman escapes her captor after a horrific ordeal. As more details emerge, what police uncover would be much bigger than they ever imagined. I'm Sloan Glass. We'll make our final trip to New Mexico and head to Elephant Butte. That's next time on American Homicide.
You can contact the American Homicide team by emailing us at americanhomicidepod@gmail.com. That's americanhomicidepod@gmail.com. American Homicide is hosted and written by me, Sloan Glass, and is a production of Glass Podcasts, a division of Glass Entertainment Group in partnership with iHeart Podcasts. The show is executive produced by Nancy Glass and Todd Gans. The series is also written and produced by Todd Gans, with additional writing by Ben Fetterman and Andrea Gunning. Our associate producer is Kristen Mulcurry. Our iHeart team is Allie Perry and Jessica Kreinchak. Audio editing and mixing by Matt Del Vecchio. Additional editing support from Nick Aruka, Tanner Robbins, Britt Robichaux, and Patrick Walsh. American Homicide's theme song was composed by Oliver Baines of Noiser. Music library provided by My Music. Follow American Homicide on Apple Podcasts. And please rate and review American Homicide. Your 5-star review goes a long way towards helping others find this show. For more podcasts from iHeart, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
What if mind control is real?
If you could control the behavior of anybody around you, what kind of life would you have?
Can you hypnotically persuade someone to buy a car?
When you look at your car, you're going to become overwhelmed with such good feelings.
Can you hypnotize someone into sleeping with you?
I gave her some suggestions to be sexually aroused.
Can you get someone to join your cult?
NLP was used on me to access my subconscious.
Mind Games, a new podcast exploring NLP, aka Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Is it a self-help miracle, a shady hypnosis scam, or both? Listen to Mind Games on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This season on Dear Chelsea with me, Chelsea Handler, we've got some incredible guests like Kumail Nanjiani. Let's start with your cat. How is she?
She is not with us anymore.
Okay, great way to start. Maybe you will cry. Ross Matthews.
You know what kids always say to me? Are you a boy or a girl?
Oh my God.
All
that's
the time.
So funny.
I know.
love it.
So I try to butch it up for kids so they're not confused.
Yeah, but you're butching it up is
It's,
basically like
an angry woman.
It's like Doris Day. or
Right?
something.
No, I turn into B. Arthur.
Listen to these episodes of Dear Chelsea on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, all my people. What's up? It's Questlove. Recently, I had the opportunity to sit down with the one and only A$AP Rocky. He reflects on his journey from Harlem roots to global icon status and discovering the hip-hop origin of his name.
The Ledge was on the TV. Rakim had the bucket hat Kango joint on. And Pops was like, that's Rakim. That's who you named after. I just was like, damn, that got swag.
But listen to the Questlove Show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast.
There was a 911 call that came in indicating that there was a woman running with no clothes on and had a chain wrapped around her neck.
It was a 911 call that made the New Mexico State Police think they were listening to some kind of prank.
The victim had been kidnapped and tortured for several days. They found what essentially was a torture chamber with a placard on it that indicated Satan's den.
You know right away that everything that happened in there was awful. It was just god-awful.
And surprisingly, it all happened in the tiny tourist town of Elephant Butte, New Mexico.
This is something we never would have expected.
It was something they never would have suspected because it went from a case about sexual assault to something even darker.
The FBI has estimated he's responsible for between 45 and 60 homicides.
It would be the most sick and twisted case that any of us would be involved in.
My name is Sloan Glass, and this is American Homicide, a show where we take you across the country to investigate some of America's deadliest crimes. We'll explore how these murders are shaped by their unique landscapes, and in turn, how these tragedies have shaped the fabric of these American communities forever. Today, we're in Elephant Butte, New Mexico, for part 1 of the Toy Box Killer. A note for our listeners, this episode includes detailed accounts of sexual violence and contains subject matter which may not be suitable for all audiences. Discretion is advised. From the towering peaks of the Rocky Mountains to the wide open desert, New Mexico is a combination of natural beauty and man-made wonders. Ironically, for a state known for its wide open desert landscape, one of New Mexico's top tourist destinations is a lake located in Elephant Butte.
Elephant Butte is a state park, and there is this man-made lake that's about 23 miles long.
Darren White worked for New Mexico's Department of Public Safety.
Well, New Mexico is the desert, and it does get hot, and so people like to cool off, and there's not many places to do that. And Elephant Butte is one of them.
Known as the Diamond in the Desert, the crown jewel of Elephant Butte is Elephant Butte Dam. That huge, man-made lake is a result of the dam's construction in the early 1900s. Locals once joked that the rock formation in the area resembled an elephant lying down, which led to the name Elephant Butte.
It's the playground for New Mexico in the summer.
Every year from Memorial Day to Labor Day, the sleepy town of Elephant Butte transforms into one of the state's biggest tourist attractions.
This tiny little town of maybe a few thousand people grows to over 100,000 people that come down every year to use the lake, to fish, to camp.
But outside of tourist season, the area is fairly desolate. The 1,000 or so full-time residents are mainly retirees.
They love the area, they love the lake year-round, but many of them will tell you too that they just want to be left to themselves and enjoy their quiet little piece of the state.
The state park is part of the city of Elephant Butte, a tiny desert community with one stoplight. It didn't even become an incorporated city until 1998. Prior to that, it was considered part of the neighboring community of Truth or Consequences. Strange name for a town, Truth or Consequences. It conjures up images of the Old West and lawlessness, but that wasn't the case. They came by the name in a very whimsical way. The town got its name from a popular radio game show in the 1950s called, you guessed it, Truth or Consequences. They had a contest. Name your city after the show, and you'd win a parade and a visit from the show's host.
Mr. Senator, I hereby christen the city of some 8,000 people, Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. Let him...
Sounds kind of crazy, but I guess in those days, that's what you had to do to have a great parade. Outside of that, the town was pretty quiet. 150 miles north of Elephant Butte is Albuquerque, and that's where a 22-year-old sex worker named Cynthia Vigil lived in the 1990s. Here's Cynthia.
I didn't have the best childhood.
Cynthia was abused and molested as a child, and later turned to the streets where she used drugs and sold her body.
When I was out there, the homelessness, the in and out of motels, the prostitution, being on drugs, I've been there and I've done that.
Central Avenue, which is part of the famous Old Route 66, cuts through downtown Albuquerque. But there's a dangerous stretch of Central Avenue known for high levels of crime. And that's where Cynthia was working on March 20th, 1999. That day, she learned that a man wanted to meet her in his RV. That was a no-no for Cynthia. She made it a rule to never meet customers in their RVs. That day, she'd break that rule, and it would change Cynthia's life forever. As Cynthia opened the front door and entered the RV, she found herself standing in front of a tall, thin man with a mustache and slick back hair. He offered her $30 for oral sex, but in her gut, she had a very bad feeling.
I just knew something wasn't right at that moment.
The man then flashed a silver badge and told Cynthia she was under arrest for solicitation.
At first, I was a little in shock. I had never seen a badge like his.
The badge seemed small and didn't look legit.
But then I was like, I've never known the cops to do that kind of undercover work.
The man started to handcuff her, and that's when Cynthia decided to run away.
So after one handcuff was on my wrist, I tried getting away.
Cynthia spun around and used her free hand to reach for the door.
And I was almost at the door when he yelled, "Cindy," and I stopped.
And then, out of nowhere, another woman named Cindy emerged from a door in the back of the RV.
She came out of the closet and shocked me at the cattle prod. It knocked me over, and they pulled me back and handcuffed me to the cabinets.
That's right, he used a cattle prod, literally shocked and stunned. Cynthia's handcuffed to a cabinet in the back of the RV that's now headed to God knows where. The man with the badge drove while his accomplice, Cindy, sat in the passenger seat. Cindy appeared much younger than the man. She was thin, with long blonde hair and blue eyes. What did these two want from Cynthia? And where were they taking her?
I never had a chance to think like what was going to happen long term.
And Cynthia decided she was not going to stick around to find out. She knew if she could free herself from the cabinet, she'd a chance to escape. After 10 minutes of trying, Cynthia managed to unscrew a bolt on the cabinet and get her hands free. They were still handcuffed, but she was no longer bound to the cabinet.
And I knew I had to get away.
Now, she waited for the RV to slow down so she could jump out. But things didn't go as planned.
At one point, he had to slam on the brakes, and I tumbled forward.
The driver and his accomplice noticed that Cynthia was loose. They jumped to the back of the RV. Cindy pointed a gun at Cynthia, while the driver removed her clothes, placed a leather mask over her head, and tied her up.
And I couldn't see nothing.
Desperate and afraid, Cynthia tried her luck with Cindy.
I was begging her to let me go. I was using every excuse that I could think of.
She was trying to talk to her woman to woman, so she was shocked by Cindy's response.
All she told me was that they were going to take me and rape me and let me go.
I should warn you that things from here get more graphic. Naked and tied up in the back of an RV, Cynthia had nothing but time to think about what awaited her.
The drive seemed like forever.
2 hours would pass before the RV pulled into an unpaved road and came to a stop. Seconds later, the door to the RV opened. That's when panic rushed over her body.
When they finally took me out of the RV, I had no clothes on. I had handcuffs and shackles on.
It was eerily quiet.
But then they put duct tape around my face.
Cynthia couldn't see a thing, as the two led her to a 22-foot cargo trailer that sat beside a small white house in the middle of the desert.
And I couldn't figure out why nobody was seeing me naked walking from the RV into the trailer.
A handful of prefabricated homes dotted the area, surrounded by Elephant Butte Lake in the distance.
They took me inside, and they sat me on the bed, and they put a metal collar around my neck that padlocked. I shackled my feet to the bed and my hands to the bed.
Cynthia didn't know it at the time, but she sat inside a room that the man with the badge called the Toy Box. But don't let that innocent name fool you. The Toy Box was actually a torture chamber that belonged to the man who kidnapped her, David Parker Ray. During the day, the 59-year-old was a maintenance man with the New Mexico Parks Department. At night, he lived out his dark sexual fantasies in an old white metal storage container that he converted into a soundproof torture chamber. An old video camera fixed to the wall pointed right at the chair that sat in the middle of the room. His partner in crime, Cindy Hendy, wasn't just his accomplice in the kidnappings and sexual assault, but was his girlfriend.
They went about their business like it was normal life.
Incredibly, the two watched movies and carried on as though there wasn't a naked woman strapped to a chair in their house. At some point, Cynthia believed she was drugged and blacked out. And when she woke up, there was a cassette tape player next to her, playing a tape. It was the voice of the man from the RV explaining what would happen in his toy box.
It started off saying, "Hello, bitch."
Okay, bitch. We both know what you've been brought here for. A lot of f***ing and s***ing.
Telling me why I was there.
I'm into bondage and S&M. It's kinda hard to find willing partners that goes for that shit. So when I get the urge, I go out, find me some good-looking little bitch that turns me on, kidnap her, and keep her in my playroom for a while. And this time it's your turn.
That's really hard to listen to. In the recordings, David calmly and matter-of-factly outlined all the disturbing things he intended to do to Cynthia.
I'm going to experiment on you. I've done it to a lot of women over the years.
The voice said that once he got tired of his victims, he drugged them, and they wouldn't remember a thing about what happened.
She knew enough to cause serious problems. You would not be turned loose. You would simply disappear.
Just before the 45-minute-long, terrifying tape ended, David Parker Ray presented an offer.
As soon as I turn this tape off, you will have an excellent opportunity to try to beg for me to turn you loose. I may or may not be able to understand you through the gag, but if you want to, feel free to try. I love to listen to a beg and plead. And this is the end of the tape.
But not surprisingly, Cynthia was unable to persuade her captors to free her. Instead, she was subjected to 3 days of unthinkable abuse.
He shocked me with a device he made. He connected it to my breast and shocked me for hours. And then they watched a movie and went to bed. The next morning, they ate breakfast, and then they took me into another room, and they put me on a massage table, and he shocked me.
The pain was excruciating.
That went on for about an hour, hour and a half.
Eventually, the pain became too much, and Cynthia passed out.
I kind of realized I might not go home, that I might die.
Cynthia woke up shackled to a chair, and across from her was a long wooden coffin. Can you imagine waking up and seeing a coffin? The top was open, and a pillow and white sheet sat inside. And on the walls of his toy box were graphic pictures of women being tortured, along with some rules. Rules like never trust a chain captive.
When they had me laying on the bed and they were going about their business, they were talking about a little girl that they were going to make their sex slave. And they already knew who she was. They already had it planned out.
For Cynthia, that was confirmation of the enormity of the crimes that took place in that trailer.
I never thought for 1 minute that I was the only girl that ever happened to.
By this point, Cynthia's body was covered with bruises and burns. Cynthia was smart. She had a strategy. She tried her best to play by David Parker Ray's rules in the hopes that he'd eventually get tired of her and let her go.
The next day, he comes and he sits on the bed and he takes the handcuffs and shackles off me and he went to work.
It was now Monday morning, and David left the trailer wearing his Green Parks Department uniform. Before he returned from work that day, everything would change.
What if mind control is real?
If you could control the behavior of anybody around you, what kind of life would you have?
Can you hypnotically persuade someone to buy a car?
When you look at your car, you're going to become overwhelmed with such good feelings.
Can you hypnotize someone into sleeping with you?
I gave her some suggestions to be sexually aroused.
Can you get someone to join your cult?
NLP was used on me to access my subconscious.
NLP, aka Neuro-Linguistic Programming, is a blend of hypnosis, linguistics, and psychology. Fans say it's like finally getting a user manual for your brain.
It's about engineering consciousness.
Mind Games is the story of NLP. Its crazy cast of disciples and the fake doctor who invented it at a New Age commune and sold it to guys in suits. He stood trial for murder and got acquitted. The biggest mind game of all? NLP might actually work.
This is wild.
Listen to Mind Games on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Questlove. Recently, I had the opportunity to sit down with A$AP Rocky ahead of his album release, Don't Be Dumb. He reflects on his journey from his Harlem roots to global icon status, discovering the hip-hop origin of his name.
The Ledge was on the TV. Rakim had the bucket hat Kango joint on. My pops was like, that's Rakim. That's who you named after. I just was like, damn, that got swag.
Rocky offers a window into not only a boundary-breaking artist, but as a man committed to fusing creative ideas, community, and remaining unapologetically himself. Have you ever gotten roasted for any of your outfits?
For sure. Some people don't be getting the vision. Look, they could roast me, they could cook me, they could deep fry me, they could saute, whatever they want. There's nobody who could with my fashion sense and my taste is impeccable. I'm just like, I impress myself a lot.
It's an amazing conversation, one you definitely don't want to miss. So listen to The Questlove Show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This season on Dear Chelsea with me, Chelsea Handler, we've got some incredible guests like Kumail Nanjiani. Let's start with your cat. How is she?
She is not with us anymore.
Okay, great way to start. So this is a great beginning, and hopefully you'll be able to, I don't know, maybe you will cry. Amanda Seyfried.
Life is so short. If you feel something like that, you have that fire in you for this experience. It's not for a guy. It's for the experience of being in love, and like it's bigger than a guy.
Elizabeth Olsen.
I love swimming naked so much. And I know you love taking pictures of yourself naked.
Yes, I love to be naked.
I just want to be in my bra and underwear all the time.
Ross Matthews.
You know what kids always say to me? Are you a boy or a girl?
Oh my God.
All
that's
the time.
So funny.
I know.
Love it.
So I'm always like, hi. Or I try to butch it up for kids, so they're not confused.
Yeah, but you're butching it up is
It's
basically like
an angry woman.
It's like Doris Day.
Right? No, I turn into B. Arthur.
Listen to these episodes of Dear Chelsea on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
In March 1999, Cynthia Vigil was abducted by a man soliciting sex from her. David Parker Ray and his girlfriend Cindy Hendy took Cynthia to their soundproof trailer in the desert town of Elephant Butte, New Mexico. There, they sexually assaulted and tortured her.
It was something totally different than any other situation I had been in.
Cynthia had lost track of time, but it was now Monday, March 22nd, 1999, the third day she was held captive. That morning, David Parker Ray chained Cynthia to a pole, and then he went to work. This meant his girlfriend Cindy Hendy was in charge.
She got left with me during the day.
That afternoon, Cynthia noticed her key to freedom sat on a coffee table just a few feet away, where David Parker Ray left his key ring. She'd seen her abductor use one of those keys to unlock the padlock that currently connected the chain around her neck to the pole. Cynthia was determined to get those keys, but with Cindy Hendy's standing guard, she couldn't make her move. Instead, she waited, as Cindy spent the day cooking and watching soap operas on an old TV. Never once did she speak until that afternoon, when she got a phone call.
She went to the back of the trailer, and I had the opportunity to get the keys.
The collar around Cynthia's neck had her chained to a pole, but her hands and feet were free. So she stretched her legs as far as they would go and then wrapped her feet around the base of the table. She slowly and carefully pulled the coffee table closer to her while trying to not make any noise. With the keys within reach, Cynthia scooped them up with her right hand. She tried the first key. It didn't fit. By the time she put the second key in, Cindy Hendy was standing in front of her.
When she came back in the living room and seen I had the keys, she started beating me with a glass lamp.
The glass broke into a million tiny pieces as Cynthia defensively curled her body into a ball.
I finally got the lock open.
In a fight for her life, Cynthia ran towards a nearby ice pick.
And I got the ice pick and I stabbed her with it.
The ice pick slashed Cindy Hendy's face, causing her to fall back in pain. And that's when Cynthia grabbed the landline phone.
I dialed 911.
But Cindy Hendy snatched the phone back from her. Blood was running down her face as Cindy quickly told the 911 operator that everything was fine and hung up the phone. When she turned around, Cynthia was gone. Cynthia had jumped through a window and was now running as fast as she could to get away from David Parker Ray's house.
I had no clothes on, I had a metal collar around my neck, and I was bleeding from head to toe.
Her eyes burned from the sunlight as she tried to find somebody, anybody, but there was no one around. As she ran down the dirt road, all she saw were a handful of prefabricated homes and RVs. The collar was still around her neck, and the chain clanked as it dragged on the dirt road. After 2 blocks of running in a dead sprint, Cynthia got to an intersection. She stopped. The street was paved, and a blue car was headed right towards her. The driver saw her and slowed down.
I tried getting in a car, the lady that was driving by me.
When the driver saw the bloodied and wild-eyed Cynthia, they screamed, rolled up their windows, and sped off. Remember, this is a small town. There were no other cars in sight. Cynthia continued running down the road. She passed an intersection and noticed a street sign. It read Bass Road. Ahead was a double-wide mobile home, and Cynthia ran straight towards the front door. Much to her surprise, it was unlocked. So she went inside and double-locked the door behind her.
I ran into some lady's house and she was doing dishes. And I asked her for help, and her husband came in and was in shock. It's stopped in his tracks and couldn't talk. He was just looking at me. And she called 911 and they put a robe on me.
I was at the sheriff's office and a 911 call came into the dispatch center.
Dave Elston was a sergeant with the Sierra County Police Department.
At first I thought it could have been a joke. Short time after that, there was another 911 call that came in indicating that there was a woman running down Bass Road with no clothes on and had a chain wrapped around her neck. And then moments later, another 911 call came in that there was a woman with no clothes on with a chain around her neck inside a woman's living room asking for help.
As two deputies responded to the home where Cynthia Vija was, Sergeant Elston went to the origin of the first 911 call, David Parker Ray's home. But David Parker Ray wasn't just some ordinary suspect to Sergeant Elston.
I knew David Parker Ray personally. He was a friend of mine.
Imagine knowing this horrible crime had occurred in the small town you were sworn to protect, only to show up to the house and it's someone you know, a person you call a friend. In this small town, David Parker Ray was well known and likable.
He was a mechanic at the New Mexico State Parks at Elephant Butte. That's how I got to know him. I worked a case once where there was individuals that broke into their police cars and stole their police radios, and ended up catching that individual, and I had David Parker Ray testify in my case, and he testified and presented himself very well during his testimony on the stand.
Now Sergeant Elston and two other officers were standing outside Parker Ray's home in Elephant Butte.
It was a mobile home. I've never been inside of it, but I've been there before and knew where he lived.
When no one answered the door, the three officers gained entry through a sliding glass door on the side of the home.
And when I walked in, I noticed that there was what appeared to be a hospital bed in the center of the room with a system of chains attached to the ceiling.
As Sergeant Elston navigated through the room, he heard shards of glass breaking under his shoes.
There was a 1970s style lamp that had the green glass bulb on the bottom, and it was broken all over the ground.
He continued and took inventory of all the bizarre things that surrounded him in his friend's home.
I entered into a room that had a coffin inside of it, and then there was a dresser drawer style with a mirror in there that had various types of tools. It had a scalpel, ice pick, a small torch. There was also like a candelabra that was in there that was approximately 3 feet high maybe, which had a sexual device on top, and then
What if mind control is real?
If you could control the behavior of anybody around you, what kind of life would you have?
Can you hypnotically persuade someone to buy a car?
When you look at your car, you're going to become overwhelmed with such good feelings.
Can you hypnotize someone into sleeping with you?
I gave her some suggestions to be sexually aroused.
Can you get someone to join your cult?
NLP was used on me to access my subconscious.
NLP, aka Neuro-Linguistic Programming, is a blend of hypnosis, linguistics, and psychology. Fans say it's like finally getting a user manual for your brain.
It's about engineering consciousness.
Mind Games is the story of NLP. Its crazy cast of disciples and the fake doctor who invented it at a New Age commune and sold it to guys in suits. He stood trial for murder and got acquitted. The biggest mind game of all? NLP might actually work.
This is wild.
Listen to Mind Games on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Questlove. Recently, I had the opportunity to sit down with A$AP Rocky ahead of his album release, Don't Be Dumb. He reflects on his journey from his Harlem roots to global icon status, discovering the hip-hop origin of his name.
The Ledge was on the TV. Rakim had the bucket hat Kango joint on. Pops was like, that's Rakim. That's who you named after. I just was like, damn, that got swag.
Rocky offers a window into not only a boundary-breaking artist, but as a man committed to fusing creative ideas, community, and remaining unapologetically himself. Have you ever gotten roasted for any of your outfits?
For sure. Some people don't be getting the vision. Look, they could roast me, they could cook me, they could deep fry me, they could saute, whatever they want. There's nobody who could with my fashion sense and my taste is impeccable. I'm just like, I impress myself a lot.
It's an amazing conversation, one you definitely don't want to miss. So listen to The Questlove Show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This season on Dear Chelsea with me, Chelsea Handler, we've got some incredible guests like Kumail Nanjiani. Let's start with your cat. How is she?
She is not with us anymore.
Okay, great way to start. So this is a great beginning, and hopefully you'll be able to, I don't know, maybe you will cry. Amanda Seyfried.
Life is so short. If you feel something like that, you have that fire in you for this experience. It's not for a guy. It's for the experience of being in love, and like it's bigger than a guy.
Elizabeth Olsen.
I love swimming naked so much. And I know you love taking pictures of yourself naked.
Yes, I love to be naked.
I just want to be in my bra and underwear all the time.
Ross Matthews.
You know what kids always say to me? Are you a boy or a girl?
Oh my God.
All
that's
the time.
So funny.
I know.
Love it.
So I'm always like, hi. Or I try to butch it up for kids, so they're not confused.
Yeah, but you're butching it up is
It's
basically like
an angry woman.
It's like Doris Day.
Right? No, I turn into B. Arthur.
Listen to these episodes of Dear Chelsea on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
It also had spikes sticking out from the bottom of it upwards. And then I also noticed on the walls that there were drawings of bondage-type situations. Essentially, it was a torture chamber with a placard on it that indicated Satan's Den.
Satan's Den was the place that David Parker Ray referred to as the toy box.
So we determined that we actually had a crime scene, but we didn't know exactly what we had at the time.
Sergeant Elston then got in touch with the deputies who were with Cynthia Vigil.
While talking with him on the telephone, he was telling me that the victim there, who was Cynthia Vigil, had been kidnapped and had been tortured for several days at David Parker's residence. He took a pair of bolt cutters and removed a metal collar that was on there.
As deputies transported Cynthia to a local hospital, Sergeant Elston began his hunt for the man no one in Elephant Butte suspected would have a torture chamber.
David Parker Ray was always friendly with me. It was kind of shocking just knowing that this individual that I'd known for that long was into what he was doing.
Later that afternoon, Sergeant Elston was in a squad car headed back to the police station when he drove past a familiar vehicle.
I noticed David Parker Ray's RV with him driving it. So I turned around, did a traffic stop with him.
Neighbors looked on as police drew their weapons and ordered David Parker Ray and Cindy Hendy to exit the vehicle.
He was very calm. He was wearing a state parks uniform.
The two then walked backwards towards the police with their hands in the air.
And he asked if he could take the uniform off. And I told him no, that just I was taking him into investigative custody.
With David Parker Ray and Cindy Hendy now in custody for the kidnapping and torture of Cynthia Vigil, what happened next would shake the quiet town of Elephant Butte to its roots. Police charged David Parker Ray and Cindy Hendy with 25 counts, including kidnapping, sexual assault, and aggravated battery of Cynthia Vigil. What they didn't know yet was that Cynthia would also be the key in unlocking even more crimes. This was just the beginning, and Cynthia was lucky to make it out alive.
People were shocked.
Darren White was the public safety director for the New Mexico State Police.
The chief, who was this very large, very stoic, and very serious man, I could see the look in his eye. Before he even uttered a word, what he was about to tell me was dark and disturbing. And he started to tell me about a woman who escaped in Elephant Butte from a trailer. That the reports were that she was running down the street and that she was naked and that she had a dog collar around her neck and that there were two people in custody. It's 100 times worse when you actually go to the scene of where everything happened. And especially once you open the door to the toy box and you see what's in there. And you know right away that everything that happened in there was awful, was just god awful, and designed with pure evil. It didn't take much more to realize it would be the most sick and twisted case that any of us would be involved in.
Talking to Cynthia Vigil, the police admired her heroism.
This was a woman that was unthinkably tortured, terrorized, and obviously incredibly shaken. But she was able to tell them exactly what happened to her and who was responsible for it and where it had happened. The detectives that were working that case knew right away that that was not the first case. He didn't wake up 2 days prior and decide, oh my God, I'm going to abduct and torture this woman.
David Parker Ray and Cindy Hendy sat in jail awaiting trial. The two maintained their innocence and said they weren't torturing Cynthia, they were helping her to detox from heroin. And they maintained any sex between David and Cynthia Vigil was consensual. As she was being transported to jail, TV cameras captured Cindy Hendy.
Were you involved in any way?
No. Kind of, but...
Kind of?
Yeah.
Did you just hear that? Cindy Hendy said, no, kind of. What does kind of mean?
She was involved in the abductions. She was involved in the torture.
Police learned that Cindy Hendy had been convicted of theft and drug possession in Washington, but fled to New Mexico. She took up residence near Elephant Butte and landed a job with the state park department. That's where she met David Parker Ray.
Cindy had said that they both had a preference for this kind of violent sexual activity. And so that's what brought them together. It's hard to imagine that a human being is capable of treating someone like that and inflicting that type of pain on them and doing it for their pleasure.
David Parker Ray was the man known for fixing things. He worked at the New Mexico Parks Department and was well known and well liked by those in town.
There was not an ill word. People didn't say bad things about him.
People described him as quiet, neat, and somebody who would never raise his voice. One coworker said David Parker Ray was the nicest, cleanest, politest person and called his arrest mind-boggling. And if you think about it, if that is really how people thought of him, it certainly was mind-boggling.
He just seemed like almost like a grandfatherly figure that you would go fishing with on the weekend.
He even won an award at work for his efforts in a cost savings program. Along with a cash prize, he received a certificate of appreciation for his, quote, exemplary work and dedication.
The thing that I remember the most is just people saying is that this is something we never would have expected of David Parker Ray.
But his reputation didn't cloud police judgment. It became obvious that David Parker Ray led two very different lives.
The one thing about David Parker Ray, kept journals, videos, recordings.
Parker Ray kept meticulous records of what he did to his victims. He even had dozens of videotapes that showed him torturing women, including Cynthia Vigil. With all this new information, police took another look at previous missing persons cases in the area. The FBI sent a pair of psychological profilers to try to get into the mind of David Parker Ray. And then there was the toy box. The FBI towed it to their Albuquerque office, where one FBI agent had the unfortunate task of sketching and making detailed drawings of its contents.
You're talking about dozens of criminal investigators that were there trying to investigate every aspect of David Parker Ray.
All of this was going down weeks before Elephant Butte's heist season began. Sleepy hotels suddenly turned on their no vacancy signs. Journalists and law enforcement flooded into town.
Here you have this quiet little town that likes to keep to themselves. That wasn't going to be the case anymore.
especially after this news became public. One of Cindy Hendy's friends told a local TV station, David Parker Ray was more than a rapist. He was a murderer. This friend claimed he dumped 4 to 6 victims in Elephant Butte Lake and that more bodies were buried in the desert.
And there was immediately rumors that the lake was probably a graveyard to dozens of his victims.
The two were no longer just being looked at as sexual predators, but serial killers. Sergeant Dave Elston was one of the investigators.
When I was inside of the residence, I saw a map of Elephant Butte Lake that had several red X's on it in the center of the lake.
What could that mean? X's on a lake? It's an ominous discovery, and you would think that somebody hiding such a huge secret would be more discreet.
It was speculated that David Parker Ray would take them out on a boat and cut their bodies open, remove the internal organs, fill the cavity with rocks, bricks, whatever it may be, wrap them in chicken wire, and dump them into Elephant Butte Lake, and the fish and other creatures would take care of the decomposition of the body. So Elephant Butte Lake is approximately 40 miles long.
Police and news helicopters took to the sky over Elephant Butte looking for bodies, but none turned up.
I did a town hall meeting with the community to try to give as much information as I could.
That evening, residents of Elephant Butte filled a local school gymnasium as Darren White of the New Mexico State Police tried to ease their concerns.
Speculation was running wild in this tiny little community.
Officer White told them that the state was pouring all of its resources into the investigation. He also expressed concern for investigators' mental health, given the chilling evidence they encountered. And in the coming weeks, police would learn about 2 more victims.
Angelica Montano was a victim of David Parker Ray.
Angelica lived in Albuquerque and claimed that David Parker Ray held her in the toy box a few weeks before Cynthia. Then he dropped her off on the interstate.
She was picked up by an off-duty deputy sheriff. She explained to him that she had been kidnapped, raped, and tortured, and then she didn't even know how she even got on the interstate.
But at the time, the police didn't believe her story, and they let her go.
He just dropped her off at a gas station in the middle of the night and continued on.
With this information, police added additional charges to David Parker Ray and Cindy Hendy. That's now 2 victims that came forward. And Deputy District Attorney Jim Yance would soon locate a 3rd. But there's a problem.
She was able to remember bits and pieces, not the entire experience.
With 3 victims, prosecutors worked to make sure they kept these monsters behind bars.
The victims, what they encountered and what they endured is just, it's unbelievable. And so unbelievable that there were so many people when they were first told didn't believe it was true.
Now, it was up to prosecutors to convince a jury.
We had jurors that were just shaking their heads no. We actually had jurors sobbing.
But would those jurors believe what happened?
Some people like it rough. It was one of the jurors that said that.
Even with 3 witnesses, a pile of tapes, detailed recordings, and physical evidence, prosecutors would struggle to keep David Parker Ray behind bars. And wait until you hear why. That's on part 2 of The Toy Box Killer, next time on American Homicide.
You can contact the American Homicide team by emailing us at americanhomicidepod@gmail.com. That's americanhomicidepod@gmail.com. American Homicide is hosted and written by me, Sloan Glass, and is a production of Glass Podcasts, a division of Glass Entertainment Group in partnership with iHeart Podcasts. The show is executive produced by Nancy Glass and Todd Gans. The series is also written and produced by Todd Gans, with additional writing by Ben Fetterman and Andrea Gunning. Our associate producer is Kristen Mulcurry. Our iHeart team is Allie Perry and Jessica Kreinchak. Audio editing and mixing by Matt Del Vecchio. Additional editing support from Nick Aruka, Tanner Robbins, Britt Robichaux, and Patrick Walsh. American Homicide's theme song was composed by Oliver Baines of Noiser. Music library provided by My Music. Follow American Homicide on Apple Podcasts. And please rate and review American Homicide. Your 5-star review goes a long way towards helping others find this show. For more podcasts from iHeart, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
What if mind control is real?
If you could control the behavior of anybody around you, what kind of life would you have?
Can you hypnotically persuade someone to buy a car?
When you look at your car, you're going to become overwhelmed with such good feelings.
Can you hypnotize someone into sleeping with you?
I gave her some suggestions to be sexually aroused.
Can you get someone to join your cult?
NLP was used on me to access my subconscious.
Mind Games, a new podcast exploring NLP, aka Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Is it a self-help miracle, a shady hypnosis scam, or both? Listen to Mind Games on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This season on Dear Chelsea with me, Chelsea Handler, we've got some incredible guests like Kumail Nanjiani. Let's start with your cat. How is she?
She is not with us anymore.
Okay, great way to start. Maybe you will cry. Ross Matthews.
You know what kids always say to me? Are you a boy or a girl?
Oh my God.
All
that's
the time.
So funny.
I know.
love it.
So I try to butch it up for kids so they're not confused.
Yeah, but you're butching it up is
It's
basically like
an angry woman.
It's like Doris Day. or
Right?
something.
No, I turn into B. Arthur.
Listen to these episodes of Dear Chelsea on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, all my people. What's up? It's Questlove. Recently, I had the opportunity to sit down with the one and only A$AP Rocky. He reflects on his journey from Harlem roots to global icon status and discovering the hip-hop origin of his name.
The Ledge was on the TV. Rakim had the bucket hat Kango joint on. My pops was like, that's Rakim. That's who you named after. I just was like, damn, that got swag.
But listen to the Questlove Show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.